What's happening, everyone? My name is Devin from DEBO Fishing, coming to you on the Monster Bass channel, and today I'm going to be going over 5 tips to help you be more efficient and catch more fish when you're pressed for time. Now listen, if you're like me, I still work a full-time job. I've got kids, activities, doctor appointments, all that stuff. So oftentimes fishing is very limited. You know, it's like I'm trying to squeeze a couple hours in here, or, you know, I can go before noon because we got a family thing on Saturday. Fishing time is precious. So whenever I go out, there's a few things that I always follow to be ready and catch more fish. Okay, tip number 1 is be prepared. And I know this sounds silly. You're like, DEBO, you're going to tell me to hear me out. Every time I get ready to go fishing, there's always a couple lures I want, or there's a couple things I think about, or, oh, do I have line in my backpack? Checking all this stuff. So when I get ready for a trip that I know is going to be the next day, I try to get everything ready I can at night. So everybody's asleep. It's kind of my time where I would, normally watch a, shoe shining video, or who knows what the heck I'd get into at 11 o'clock at night, but get my stuff ready and then go to bed. That way I'm rested up and ready to go. So I'm talking, make sure you have a couple different combos. Make sure you've got your bag with pliers, line cutters, you've got new batteries in your scale. You don't want to go out the first time and have a dead scale. Getting a couple different boxes ready, having some backup lures to throw, whatever it is, whatever you do to get stuff ready, try to do that the night before. And if you can, if it's like, oh, I just got home and I've got 2 hours to go, then just take a couple things and go. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't sit around for 45 minutes getting stuff ready and then think, I've only got an hour to go. I'm just going to skip it. Okay, now once you actually get out on the water, the second tip that I always tell people is follow the pattern. Follow the pattern that you find and try to replicate that as many times over and skip the stuff in between. What I mean is, let's say you get to the first spot, you see a nice stump there, you flip your Texas rig into it and a bass nails it right there by it. Catch a fish, woo, great. And then you decide to go down the other side of the bank that has nothing on it and you're throwing a spinnerbait and don't get a bite for 45 minutes. Well, what I mean is try to find some more wood. The next log you find, if you see the crotch of a tree, throw in there, boom, probably another fish, right? So try to replicate that and skip the stuff between. And this is going to kind of go with another tip that I give, really more for like moving and where they're at in the water, but specifically the cover is what I mean on this one. So if they're really tight to wood, if you've got a lot of lakes with docks, you notice they're always like in the back dark side of the dock. Spring like it is now, you find some spots where there's really good green grass lines. You cast and, bring your lure in. Ugh, a bunch of good green grass on it. Yuck. I know it sucks to pull it off, but that's a good clue. Right now, there's going to be bass lining up on that, going up into the shallows, going, back into those little creeks and channels and stuff. So try to find those patterns and stick to it. You'll be more successful than trying to just, go all willy-nilly. Try to find it and go. Okay, tip number 3. This is going to sound really close to tip number 2, but I'm going to tell you to keep your bait in the strike zone longer. Now, the reason I separate these two is because number 1 is when fish are orientated to something. If you're catching fish just out, free roaming and they're schooling, pushing stuff, I can't really tell you, they're on one sort of thing. They're chasing bait, right? They're relating to bait. That would really be the pattern. But let's say you're a bank angler like me a lot of times. Anytime you can find something that they're consistently on, I'm going to say to keep to that structure. Now, the third tip that I'm saying is different, is keep in the strike zone longer. So what do I mean? You go up to a pond, you cast out parallel to the bank, maybe 8-10 feet off the bank, and every time you're in, you let your bait count down maybe to 5 feet of water, you're getting bit consistently. But then you start bombing casts way out there and you're not getting anything on those really long casts until, again, you're within maybe 8 feet of the bank and that 5-foot depth mark. Then you're getting bit. Another good way to think of this is if you're flipping and pitching a jig or a Texas rig, and every time you flip it in, you haven't had a single fish hit it on the fall. It's only when it gets to the bottom and you start dragging it, focus on dragging stuff on the bottom. Maybe you need to slow down. The other day I went out, cold front came through, it was 86, and then 2 days later it was 56, and then today 46, right? So huge cold front come in. When I went out yesterday, I was trying to be a little bit more finesse, a little bit slower in my presentation, and it worked. Going faster with stuff when I first got there didn't get me anything. Or vice versa. Another one is if you flip in and every single time it's hitting it on the fall, you get your bait down to the bottom and you're dragging it and you haven't had a single bite, then it's usually the game of he who pitches more, he who presents that bait and lets it fall more is going to win. So focus on, you throw it out there, it gets to the bottom, shake it a couple times. If you don't have anything, reel it in and flip it in again, because most of them are hitting it on the fall. You could also lighten up your lure, right? So if you're throwing like a 3/8 ounce lure and it's going down really fast, you might drop down to like a 1/4 or 3/16 ounce weight. It gives that bait more time in the strike zone, more time on the fall, more time for you to get bit. Just like a crankbait or a jerkbait too. You know, if I'm fishing a 6-foot diver, if I make a really long cast, it can get down to 6 feet and stay there in that strike zone longer than if I throw a short cast, it'll go down and then come right back up, right? So try to stay in that strike zone as long as you can. Okay, tip number 4 is fish what's familiar. Now, if I've only got half a day to fish or like 3 hours to fish, I'm not gonna go try to find some new spot and be like, oh, this is great, I wanna explore. I'm gonna save that for a day when I've got more time. I wanna fish what's familiar, a lake that I've fished a number of times. You know, I know the seasonal patterns. Right now it's pre-spawn. I should know where the fish are gonna kind of be stacking up. You know where the fishing jetties are. You might know where some of the submerged structure is that other people don't know about. Fish something familiar. Now that doesn't mean fish it the same way you had success there last time. I'm even talking a couple weeks. You might have fished it a couple weeks ago. Those fish were really, really early pre-spawn, and man, you were finding them on this one bank. Well, that could have been early in the pre-spawn. 2 weeks from now, if it's warmed up, they could be way back in the backs of those creeks, super shallow. Or, you know, if they were in the middle of spawn, a lot of those fish could have already moved back out, you know, off to those secondary, primary points. So what I mean is fish something that's familiar that you know your way around. You're not going to be lost and frustrated, because frustration is just usually going to lead to not a good day. Okay, my 5th tip to be more successful when you're pressed for time is take multiple combos. Now, I know not everybody's budget allows for that, but I hear a lot of people say, if you only have an hour to fish, take one combo and go fish. And there's nothing wrong with that. I completely get it. Going out and fishing for an hour is better than staying home and sitting on the couch and eating Doritos. However, there have been a number of days, as you know, somebody who films fishing videos, I'll go out and look at the temperature and everything. I'm like, dude, it's going to be an amazing day for a spinnerbait or something. And I go out and I can't buy a bite on that lure, and it's frustrating as heck. But if I take a couple combos, have a couple lures of what I think is going to be ready, each spot I go to, I can kind of switch stuff. So let's say I get to the first rocky fishing jetty, and I think these fish should all be stacked up along this, you know, at the bottom of this with a spinnerbait or chatterbait. I should be able to get them. Nothing. I throw a jig in there and I'm dragging it slowly and I start getting bites. Okay, well, I haven't locked myself into one lure, one thought, right? Because again, if that doesn't pan out, good chance you're getting frustrated, which leads to you fishing too fast or slow, or just kind of giving up, getting mentally, you know, spun out. So having those other options has really been big for me. Even a bank angler, you know, I'll take 2, 3, 4 combos, a couple in each hand, and go walking. You know, I can set them down when I get to the spot where I'm fishing, but being able to adjust to that, because just because you think you know what's going on doesn't always pan out that way when you get out there. All right, for all you awesome folks that made it to the end, bonus tip. Now, this isn't really a tip. This is more of something that I have noticed that I've needed to really work on myself, and that's stay in the day mentally. So you go out, you've got real high hopes. It looks like it's going to be a great day. In the first half hour, you're out there, nothing. Well, I'm telling you, keep your head positive, because if you get spun out on the water, you start fishing too fast, or you're just fishing everything like a zombie. You're like, I'm not going to catch anything. Why the heck am I even out here? It's a waste of time. I can't tell you how many times I've been out in an 8-hour day of fishing and only caught fish the last hour. And it could be absolute fire the last hour, like catch after catch after catch after catch, or there's like a little window where it starts to rain and fishing turns on, wind changes direction. A number of things can happen and absolutely change your day just like that on the water. So stay in it positively, stay in your head positive, and fish it through to the end, because you never know, that last PB or that PB could be on that last cast of the day. Can't catch the fish unless you're out there fishing. So listen, again, my name is Devin from DEBO's Fishing. I hope these tips helped you. Even if you've only got an hour to fish, go out and fish. I say it all the time on my channel. It's better than sitting home. You can't catch fish unless you're out there wetting a line. So thank you all for watching. And until next time.